welcome back. I have one more here, and I'm so excited. And then just as a quick reminder, all of our sessions today are being recorded, so you'll be able to go back and listen to any that you missed, and then also listen to all the sessions from the other track that's happening. So don't worry, they'll all be available. And then I have the honor of introducing Kathy Zant, and it's very fitting that she's speaking today because she actually created Kadence Amplify, so we would not be here today if it wasn't for her. A bit about Kathy. She is an internationally recognized expert on leadership, security, growth marketing, and profitable website development. She's spoken at countless events worldwide, both online and on stage. She is passionate about your stories and believes everyone's voice deserves to be heard. And I would be lying if I said I didn't rig the system a bit to make sure that I got to be the one introducing Kathy today, just because she is such a dear friend of mine. We had the honor and privilege of working together, and whether she likes it or not, our hearts are probably connected for life. So let me bring her up. Hi, Kathy.
Oh, Hannah, it's so good to see you too. I am so honored by that introduction. And yeah, I mean, Kadence obviously is so close to my heart, as are you. And I just loved working with you so much and miss you every single day. And that just touched my heart. Thank you.
Well, it's fun to drag you into things like this, so that way you're not gone forever. But
yeah.
Yeah, so thanks for being here. I'll let you have the stage. You know how this works. If you need anything, let me know. I messed up in the comments, won't be coming in live, but I will be reading them off to you. So if you guys have questions, those who are watching, ask away, and I'll make sure those get to Kathy. So yeah, it's all you.
Great. And do I sound okay? Because I'm using a new mic. I did test it, but I want to make sure it sounds okay from your end.
Yeah, it sounds good to me.
Okay, I am in a new environment. So, yeah, we'll see how this goes.
Take it away.
Awesome. And if you could, yeah, there they are. There's slides. Hey, everyone. I'm Kathy Zant. For those of you who have been using Kadence for a long time, you probably remember me. I'm one of you. I am a huge Kadence fan. And when Kadence Amplify was happening again and they reached out, I was, of course, one of the first people, I think, to pitch a talk. And I wanted to talk about security because I know that is so important to many of you who are building sites. And I wanted to talk about the weakest link in WordPress security. And I've been in the security space for decades, and I've been in WordPress security for a little less than 1 decade. So I have a lot of experience around this topic. And anytime anybody asks me about security, I have the stories, and I wanted to share some inspiration with you. And talking about opportunity, because the weakest link in WordPress security offers an opportunity, and I want to talk to you about how you can capitalize on that. So a little bit about me. I was a web developer before WordPress ever really became a thing. And then I kind of made a name for myself in the WordPress space as a security expert, did a lot of talks at WordCamps, a lot of online events and whatnot. I'm now firmly rooted in education and empowerment of people. And that's one of the reasons I love security as a topic, is because it is empowering. A lot of people become afraid when they start talking about hackers, and it becomes this big scary thing. You know, think about it. If you're in your neighborhood of your house and there are people breaking into houses down the street, there's a lot of fear around that. If you are using WordPress and you hear about attacks on WordPress, it gets scary. So I want to empower you, and that's firmly where my roots are planted now, is empowering people in everything that I do. And, you know, I've been around on the internet for a very long time. Look, I got a 4-letter domain. I registered my last name back in the 90s. So I've been doing this for a while, and I'm here to share my stories, my experiences, so that you can find greater empowerment in the sites that you're building and the clients that you're working with. Now, who is this talk for when we're talking about the weakest link in WordPress security? Now, if you are just the only person managing one blog, you have one login like Zant.com, it's got one login, there's only one user on it, and it's me. I I probably don't need to think about talking about WordPress security to other people if you're, just doing that. But if you're building sites for other people, if you're an agency or a freelancer and you're building sites for other people, security needs to come up as a topic. It's very important. But also, too, if you have people who are logging into your site, if you have a LearnDash LMS site and you have students logging in, if you have a WooCommerce site and you have customers logging in, or if you are building sites for others and they have customers or contributors, editors, there's all these different roles that come into play when you have a WordPress site. And if you have lots of people logging into a WordPress site, security has to be a part of the conversation. So if you have a site that fits that profile, if you are a developer that fits that profile, then security is a conversation you need to have. It's a part of running any kind of site, whether it's WordPress or otherwise. If you care about WordPress security, let's talk about how we can turn this into an opportunity. So basically, we're going to talk about the problem of WordPress security, kind of where we are right now, and just sort of the landscape, why this is so important, not just to WordPress, but to our digital lives, and how WordPress fits into that conversation. And then we're going to talk about the opportunities that we have when we talk about security. So let's just dive into it. Now, a lot of people that I've talked to over the years, when we talk about securing our sites, people will say, well, it's just my cat blog, or it's just my blog, or it's just, I'm just a small business. Why would a hacker consider my site to be important at all? They don't think about the motive behind what hackers are doing. And hackers target WordPress sites. Well, they target anything basically online for one primary reason. They're looking to make money. So they're looking for your server resources, your domain reputation, so that they can do things like spam, sending out spam, or even putting spam links in order to improve SEO on their Viagra sites and things like that. Phishing, basically to exploit unsuspecting users. Putting malware on these sites in order to redirect people to another site so that they can install malware on people's computers. And of course, they put backdoors in there so that they can maintain access. But it really all just boils down to hackers are going to hack because they want to make money. When we understand that, we can understand the landscape a little bit better. Now, how prevalent is this? Well, according to Sophos, they report that 30,000 websites, and that's not all just WordPress, but 30,000 sites across the board are hacked every day. And Sucuri, a security firm in the WordPress space, has reported that 10% of WordPress websites are vulnerable to hacking due to outdated software. 10%. Now, we hear a lot from the security companies. We hear a lot about, vulnerabilities that have been patched in various software, and there's all of these vulnerability reports or attacks on a particular plugin that has a vulnerability, these types of things, and they have firewalls that are there to protect you. But think about it. 10% of WordPress websites are vulnerable. What about the other 90%? Like, how did those get hacked? Interesting, huh? 90% of these other sites are vulnerable for some other reason. All right, let's dive a little deeper. Now, why are they targeting WordPress? Well, WordPress, because it powers over 40% of the internet, what are hackers going to do? They're going to find economies of scale. Well, if WordPress is powering it's the number one CMS, basically, of all the CMSs. I think it's like 60% of all sites using a CMS are using WordPress. They're going to place their attention on exploiting vulnerabilities associated with the largest CMS, the software that's most easily hacked because it is the most installed, most utilized CMS or content management system that is out there. So they're trying to hack as many sites as possible. They're not going to waste their time on, another CMS that only has 1% of market share. They're going to focus on basically the lowest hanging fruit. And they know economies of scale. They understand that if they can compromise 10 small businesses, it's the equivalent of attacking one large business that has an entire security operations team defending one singular website. So if they can get 10 small business websites that aren't paying attention to security, that's a heck of a lot easier. And they don't expect small businesses, they don't expect individual proprietors to be protecting their site and making good security decisions. Hackers are betting that you're not paying attention to your site security. Hackers are betting that your clients are not paying attention to site security. So this is their bet. That's what they're doing. Now I want to tell you the story of one agency that I helped with remediation. It was an agency down in Brazil. Could be any agency. I've had so many conversations with agencies that have cPanel. And cPanel, if you have ever used it, is a website management. It's a panel thing where you can go and like do all sorts of things, manage your email, blah, 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 manage your database. It has a feature called add-on domains. And this agency had a cPanel installation. And within this one installation, they had 30 sites. So they had one primary domain, and then they had 29 other add-on domains. Now, the problem here is all of these sites were operating using the same server-based user. So PHP on the server was running with the same permissions of one user. So one site, all 30 sites were using that same permission. Now, what ended up happening as we did the incident response is we found that there was an intrusion on one client site. There was only one admin account, and this agency's customer had access, the username and password, to log in to that admin account. Well, that was compromised. Either they had reused passwords or something had happened on their end, maybe an info steal or something had happened, and that one account had been compromised. The password was exposed somehow. The hacker logged into that one site, and then they went to the theme editor. They went to the 404 page for the theme. They replaced the 404 page with a backdoor. So any 404 on that particular singular site that was an add-on domain showed a backdoor. And then they were able to use that backdoor to append a string of JavaScript to every JavaScript file for which it had permission, which was 30 sites. So in one user account, one compromised account had led to 30 sites being hacked. You can see where the weakest link in website security is, with WordPress security especially, is the user. It is people. It is our customers. You have one setup like that, and it was a bad day for that agency. We were able to fix it relatively quickly, but they had 30 sites of their customers that were redirecting to a bad area of the internet. And it was like malware that was going to be installed, like, Flash, something like that, where it just like popped up, your Flash player is out of date. And so it was trying to install malware on site visitors' computers. And so we had to take all of those sites down while we did that remediation and pulled that JavaScript out. So bad scene. And it's not just this one agency, and it's not just cPanels with add-on domains. According to Thomas Rafe, who runs a company, We Watch Your Website, who watches millions of sites. I can't remember how many. Every time I talk to Thomas, he's watching more and more websites. I think the last time I talked to him, it was like 8 million or 9 million sites that he was watching. It's probably more by now, but he did an analysis and he watches the log files of all of these sites. And what he saw and the research that he published at the beginning of 2024 is he found that 60% of sites were being hacked, not because of software vulnerabilities. He was finding over 60% of sites were being hacked because of the user. Either it was a reused password or a brute forced password, or it was an info stealer that was installed on a person's personal device and session cookies had been stolen, but it was the user and the user's security decisions that were causing the intrusion on the websites that he was remediating. So this is relatively new information this past year. This is what Thomas has been seeing. Now, the interesting thing is it's not just WordPress. Info stealers have been a problem for a number of different institutions. If you think about it now, when you log into your bank online on a website and you are doing banking information, doing all of your transactions, don't you notice you like walk away to fill up your coffee and you come back and you're logged out already? Interesting, huh? Now, when you log into your WordPress site, your state, your session is stored for quite some time. And if you click that box of remember me, it's stored up to 2 weeks. Those session cookies that authenticate you and maintain your state as you are logged into a site, into a WordPress site, can be very valuable. If you are storing a 2-week cookie, a cookie for 2 weeks that does not get killed when you log out, if you are maintaining that session and somebody compromises your computer with an info stealer, you know, your site is fair game. And finding out exactly what happens is pretty hard because they're stealing your cookie and they don't need to. 2FA, two-factor authentication, isn't protecting anything. It is just they log in as you because they have that session cookie. So that's how hackers are getting into sites. A lot more prevalent than software vulnerabilities at this point. Humans, your customers, your users are your weakest link. Here's the thing is, you know, WordPress, we're pretty small when it comes to like the entirety of the web. You know, you have banking institutions, your mortgage company, all of the different logins that you have. But we notice that when small businesses are affected by a hack, this is from, gosh, it's not CISA, it was another governmental organization. I forgot to put my source on this one, but 60% of small businesses, when they have a breach or a cyber attack, they tend to go out of business within 6 months because of all of the problems that arise after a breach like this. The PCI, or payment card industry, data security requirements are very strict. If you have a breach and credit card information is exposed, if someone gets into a site that is processing credit card transactions and they put a credit card stealer on there and credit card numbers are exposed, you could lose your ability to do business online. Plus, if you think about all of the breach notification requirements that exist, many jurisdictions require that if any personally identifiable information is exposed to a hacker, to malicious attackers, you have to notify your customers and let them know that their information has been exposed. And the thing is, you know, we've all been hacked, right? You can go on haveibeenpwned.com. You can do it right now as I'm talking. Open another tab, go type in your email address. If you've been online for any length of time, your email address has been in a breach at least once. They also have the statistics on there. They're showing here like 14 billion accounts that have been exposed, and they show some of the largest breaches. This was a screen capture from yesterday, but you can go look and see. I mean, if you've had an Adobe account, if you've had an account with Facebook, many large organizations have had breaches. They have been attacked. They have had customers' information exposed, and it's kind of just the background of the internet. Hackers are hacking and information is being exposed. This is not just a WordPress problem. The thing is, though, the fact that we're working with WordPress and we're working with customers who likely don't have the expertise, we have opportunities here. People are just not prepared for this. Funny story, my husband requires medical attention at home, so we have nurses that come, and I was talking to a nurse, oh, what do you do? And this was a couple of years ago, and I was talking about security, and she's like, I have a hacker that lives in my Facebook account. Like, tell me more. And her account had been hacked, and there was malicious activity happening on her account, and she just gave up. she just gave up. And I told the story at a WordCamp, and somebody else came up to me after a talk and told me another hilarious story of a friend of his that had their Netflix account hacked, and they had just this other user, and he had set up a profile for himself and had all of his favorite movies, and he was just like, oh, well, I guess he's just here now. And people just live like this. Like, to me, that's horrifying and terrifying that people would just live like this. But it's becoming like this norm of like things that we just deal with. This is just life. People are not prepared to manage their security in a way that legal requirements like and compliance requirements are requiring, like with breach notification legislation, with the PCI DSS standards that we have to adhere to. There's just this gap in compliance of what's happening. And so it is our responsibility as security professionals, as people who are committed to security, to up-level everyone so that they can be in compliance, so that they can kind of come to a parity with what organizations are requiring of them. You see, we have this opportunity. We have an opportunity to be of service. But really, if you think about sort of like just this landscape of security of where we are right now, I would implore that if you are working with people who are clients who do not have the security acumen that you have an imperative, a moral imperative, if I can be so bold, to help folks get to a place where they are more cognizant of and more empowered to secure themselves. And the great thing is there's so many opportunities in WordPress to kind of tune people to that security awareness. You do it with WordPress and it spills out into other areas of their life. You do it with one client and you have one client and you up-level their security awareness. Think about how you have an effect on everyone else in their life. So if Aunt Mary is living with a hacker in their Facebook account, your client can then help Aunt Mary get the hacker out and like live a normal life and not have to deal with this kind of intrusion. The thing is security is such an opportunity to be a differentiator. Other agencies, like if you look at most agency proposals or freelancer proposals, security and ongoing security relationships are not a part of the conversation. They rarely talk about security and supporting that security dialogue as a part of the relationship. And those who are doing it oftentimes have sort of a superiority complex. No, this is not harsh on anyone. I'm not talking down about anyone, not throwing shade, but I've been in the security world and I can tell you that I have stood in front of many audiences giving security talks. And there's just like the one guy who sits in front, is just like, I'm going to see if she knows what she's talking about. And it's just like this competitiveness or this one-upmanship. And if you can talk about security in a way where it's like empathetic, where you can meet people where they're at and help up-level them from a place of empathy, support, kindness, and meeting people where they're at and not coming down, talking down at them, you differentiate yourself. You become the assistant. You become the trusted advisor. You become intertwined in the business in a way that those other agencies just can't do. Let's talk a little bit more about how to do that. When you're talking about a new client, when do you talk about security? This is the time where you can build it into your proposal. You can talk about your security experience and how you're going to be of support for your website security right at the beginning. Build it into every part of the proposal. As well, you can build security training into the first stages of turning over that site to customers. And I'm going to talk to you about a resource that Nathan Ingram and I have developed that can help you do this in a way that's going to cause zero workload for you. But requiring that basic security training can have a long-range impact on the security of the site. I mean, it's the worst thing in the world, right? You build this beautiful, gorgeous site. It's one of the things that you show new clients, and you turn over a login to your customer and they don't take care of their password, or they change it to something that they're using for everything and it gets hacked. and new client goes, oh, well, what's wrong with this site? You want to protect that asset and make it work for your clients, sometimes even more than your client wants it for themselves, right? So making that security conversation happen at the very start of any relationship not only helps you enhance trust with that customer, it helps you build a portfolio of businesses that you can showcase and trust that it's okay to showcase to new customers coming in. There's so many opportunities here. And AT&T, they're selling network services to, the Fortune 100, whatever. They did some research to see what do proactive security policies really do for a business. They came up with some statistics. They found that companies with proactive security policies, companies who really take a look at security, plan for what happens if we do get hacked. What is the procedure for an incident response? Companies that have user education and user testing to see if they are going to respond to a phishing email. Companies who do that proactive work have better outcomes. They average 24% sales growth over 3 years with 20% profit margins. And companies that aren't doing it, they're like, yeah, whatever, we'll just restore from backup. That's good enough. They only experience 6% sales growth with 3% profit margins. And I have a theory here. My theory is that if you're proactive about security, if you're proactive about protecting your assets, you're also proactive about other things. You're proactive about growth. You're proactive about meeting needs of customers. It trains something in your mind to think about your business differently when you handle security well. And AT&T's research showed that as an outcome. It's also just such a great way to enhance a relationship. Building in a quarterly audit to make sure that everything's okay with the site, that no new users have shown up, that there's no errant backups that are placed in a public folder, things like that. You do this on a periodic basis, especially right before Black Friday, things like that. You want to make sure nothing bad happens during these peak sales moments. It's a great way to solidify your role as a freelance or agency partner with your clients. You're not just selling a one and done website and moving on to the next one. Establishing a relationship where you are the security advisor for your clients is so critically important. You can use security news as a trust enhancer. I mean, one of the things when I was doing security marketing, it was more like security news, right? Something happens, this plugin has a vulnerability, get the news out as fast as you can, make sure everybody gets patched, make sure everybody has their firewalls updated, whatever needs to happen. This is an awesome time for you to establish your reputation and your credibility as a trusted partner. When you have the scoop on a security issue, like WooCommerce has a patch that needs to be deployed immediately, and you're on top of it, your customer can just breathe easily and go, work on product or whatever it is that they're doing. They know you've got it covered and you are an integral part of their business. What does this mean for the long run? Well, we've kind of gone through some economic uncertainty over the past few years, and I'm sure there's been budget conversations at some point or another for many of your clients. And they look at everything, right? They look at how much money they're spending on website management. They're looking at maintenance costs, and maybe we don't really need this. When you establish yourself as an integral part of your client's business, you go into the safe zone. They table any conversation about reducing cost with you. They understand the implications of reducing your surface area of impact on the business. If you're not a part of the business, everything is at risk. This is the place you want to position yourself as an agency, as a freelancer, as the website go-to person for any business. You want to put yourself as the key relationship that must be protected at all costs. You can also do things like offering compliance help, PCI DSS, security compliance, privacy laws, always fun. You want to make sure that you're able to support them in those roles. Building an auditing process where they are checking for compliance issues across the board, where you are that trusted advisor. Maybe you can find opportunities to bring in security professionals that can white label under you, that you can contract with, or you can just say, you know, we're bringing in Kathy Zant, the security expert, and she's going to be organizing this penetration test on the website, and we're going to do that, and we're relying on her expertise to do this kind of service. So but you are the key person. You own the relationship with that customer, and you don't. I think a lot of agencies and a lot of freelancers, sometimes they're like, well, I can't offer security as a service for my customers because I don't have security credentials. I'm not a security person. I'm a web designer. I'm a developer. I just, you know, I might be full stack, but I don't want to go there. I don't want to deal with the security aspect of things. It's such an opportunity when you can just establish yourself as the person who knows, as the person who pulls in resources as you need to. And honestly, security is not that hard. It becomes common sense after a while. And if you can just position yourself in a place where you understand sort of the topography of what's going on, you make sure that you're, you know, receiving alerts on security concerns and as they relate to each individual product that you have in your stack. Establish yourself as a security professional, and wherever you feel insecure, just up-level your skills, because it does become worth it. And it's not just worth it in terms of like establishing your reputation in your business. It becomes worth it in sort of that larger imperative that we have to up-level everyone's security across the board. As well with incident response, showing your clients at the get-go, at the start of any relationship, that you have plans if anything ever does happen. We're not planning for if it happens, we're planning for when it happens. And this is what we're going to do. And here's the plan. Here's how we're going to make sure that backups work. We're going to be testing them quarterly. We have forensic investigation plans in place, and how we're going to handle, you know, communication to key stakeholders, breach notifications, a whole 9 yards. And here is how we're going to take all of that information, should any of that happen, and we're going to up-level education within your organization. You become the security person of choice. See, when I first started doing web development and I inherited a server that somebody else had set up and it got hacked and I was sent off to security school, I was just like, well, security is just something we all do, right? It's just something we all do. We pay attention to all of this. And it took me a lot of years before I realized, oh, wow, this is now a specialty. Because back in the day, it was just something that I assumed it's something that we all do. And I'd kind of like to get us back to that place. You don't have to feel like you are the security expert all the time, but know where to go, understand the basic terminology, and just partner with trusted experts if you need to. If you're not feeling secure with it, partner with someone who can help you feel more confident so that you can communicate with more confidence to your customers. Now, one of the things that I've really committed to do is to take all of that, the years of experience that I've had in security, not just WordPress. I mean, when that server got hacked, WordPress didn't even exist. I know, I'm that old, but it was perfect time to start learning. And I've got tons of experience, and it is my job now to get all of that out and to get it into courses, to get that into materials, YouTube videos, so that other people can learn from my stories and my experience. So one of the things that I was talking to Nathan Ingram about, I'm like, oh, I'm doing this security courses. I'm going to try to make it as like easy for anyone. And he actually was like, hey, what if we did this? Because this is a problem for a lot of agencies where they have people who are just like, yeah, we just share the same password for everything. And they need support in up-leveling their security awareness. So we created Monster Secure, which is, it uses LearnDash, and there's a way that I just did the course. He set this all up in such a brilliant way so that every agency who becomes a customer of Monster Secure, you set up your customers here, they go through my course, take the quiz at the end, they pass the quiz. You as the agency see that they've passed the quiz. You have something in your contract that says, you know, you don't get access to the site until you've gone through this 30-minute, very easy to go through course, but it gives you just some parameters. And once you see that they've passed the course and they've taken the quiz, you can give them credentials and you know that they have some basic parameters of what to do. And we've really built this around like what agencies need. I mean, you need somebody who's not going to hire an SEO person and then just give them credentials, the admin account or whatever. So there's directives in there about what to do if you do need to add someone as a user to the account, that you need to notify your web firm that handles your security so that they're aware that there's a new user. Otherwise, that's an incident and an investigation needs to happen. So they understand, how to do these things in a way that is going to protect the site. Two-factor authentication, how to set that up with a couple of different providers. It's very, very simple. And it's taught by me. So I try to make it as easy as possible, as relatable as possible. No talking down to anyone. Just like, here's what you need to do. Here's why we do it, so that they have a full understanding of why their decisions matter with WordPress security. My hope is by educating these users of the decisions that they make and how it impacts security, is that they start thinking about like, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't reuse the same thing for like all my credit cards and banking accounts too. Hopefully they start understanding some security best practices and start applying them in other areas of their life, and that they'll tell two friends and they'll tell two friends. And all of a sudden we have a movement where everybody's secure. And of course, hackers will find another way, but we're going to keep trying, right? So monstersecure.com, you can go there, you can sign up for an account, you can go through the course and see what it's like. If you think it's good for your clients, you can sign up over there, but you can see everything that's there and how it all works. I'm also just going to shout out to my friends over at Solid Security. And of course, their brand new Solid Backup. It's got another, it's Solid Backups. But you can go to solidwp.com and you can see how those tools can support your website security and give you some tools that can help you and your clients make better security decisions. One of the things I love about Solid Security is that it is built with agencies in mind. It takes you through that onboarding where you get to tell it, okay, this is kind of site we have here, and it helps you make those kinds of decisions for your users right at the get-go with onboarding. And of course, you should go to Zant.com. You should sign up for my newsletter that is moving providers, hopefully very soon. And when I do, that is where we're going to have even more discussions. And go on YouTube, find my name, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I talk about more generic security types of things. It isn't always WordPress. Most of the time, it's not WordPress. It's talking about things like password managers and best practices with those types of things. And so that's about it. And I am here for any questions that anyone might have.
Literally
I can't hear you,
muted.
Han. Oh, there you are.
You're a wealth of knowledge. That was amazing.
Oh,
I think you're the only person that can make a security talk so exciting and intriguing. And it makes me think that I should absolutely go take your course, because I'm 100% one of those people that's like, oh, I probably won't be the person that gets hacked. But then you're like, oh, we've all probably already been hacked. And I was like, oh no, she's talking to me.
Go to Have I Been Pwned, put in your email addresses.
I was too scared to do it. Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, it is. It's fun stuff, though.
Yeah. No questions in the chat right now.
All right.
I'm just curious, what got you into security? Because you also have your foot in marketing and your foot in in web development, and then also you're a motivator and you have your hand in so many areas. And yeah, when you talk about security, it feels like security is all that you do because you have so much knowledge in it. So
I think it's because I got hacked so early, I mean, I got hacked. God, when was that? That must have been 90. Gosh, it was way before. It was in the 90s, late 90s. And I inherited that server and it got hacked. And so I was working for this big insurance conglomerate. I was in this data center, right? And so it was a white hat hacker, and they just put a text file, and I found it, and I was like, oh crap. So I immediately went to my boss and I'm like, what do I do about this? And it just this whole insurance data center was just like, dun, 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 you know, it was like the biggest emergency. I was just like, what did I do? They set it up. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm the marketing lady, right? I don't know what I'm doing. I'm HTML. But they're like, no, you have to learn about network security. And it was, I mean, they sent me to security school, and I got to learn how to spoof emails when it was a lot easier to do that. So I got to play practical jokes on people, and I got into hacker culture because of all of that. And so I was like super interested in all of that. And and then I was, I was just doing HTML, and then I started learning server side stuff and database stuff, and, kind of like self-taught, just learned it all. Yeah. And so security just kind of became a part of that. And I just kind of made that assumption that it's just like, this is what we do. We all do security, right? And like, even back then, SQL injection vulnerabilities weren't a thing yet. So we were doing all these like data-driven applications. I remember when SQL injection vulnerabilities were like first discovered, and then we all had to like sanitize inputs and things like that. Yeah. So I just kind of grew up with it. And then, I mean, I didn't really go full in. I was using WordPress for some stuff, but I didn't really go full into it until like 2012, whenever they bought WooCommerce. And I was like, okay, now I can see where all of this is going, and stopped coding my own stuff anymore. But I just didn't want to like maintain my own code anymore. But like, I didn't go to college for any of this. I went to college as in speech communication. I was on a speech team.
That's what I mean. You wear many hats, and you wear them all so well. It's very impressive.
Oh, thank you. I mean, mostly I'm just here to like empower people. There's nothing like sitting at a WordCamp with somebody who's like just getting into WordPress for the first time, and they're just like learning. I'm just going to blog about ancestry or something that's interesting to them, and they don't know anything, and you can just kind of give them just pointers on like, oh, well, here, let me shortcut you. Don't go to this one, go to this one, do this, like, I just want all the stuff that I've collected over the past 20 years to like be useful somehow instead of just here. So, yeah.
Totally. Well, definitely useful. Okay, so if people want to take the course, they go to monstersecure.com. That's where the courses are.
Yes. Yeah. It's we've set it up.
I'm literally like writing them down. Like, I need to go take these courses.
It's super easy. You'll probably think it's like too easy for you, but it's like how to set up 2FA, how to think about users, how to think about the principle of least privilege, like real basic stuff. But it's so funny. I mean, I went into WordPress thinking I don't want to maintain my own code anymore. Somebody's got to be doing it better than I do. And then I started like getting into security, and I'm like, oh, geez, maybe people aren't doing this better than I was. Maybe I should have just built some plugins. I don't know, but it's all been good. It's just been fun for me.
That's interesting.
And then working on Kadence was just an absolute blast, and just seeing. I mean, the one thing about Kadence that I just lit me up is just seeing people building businesses and building a new life for themselves on Kadence, and that is so inspiring to me. So I love to see that that's still happening.
Yeah, it totally is. It's so awesome. We have such a thriving community. This is a side story, but when you brought up AT&T in regards to security, we my husband and I are going to be traveling, and so we actually were going to switch our Verizon plan to AT&T because they like had a good travel plan. And we spent hours on the phone trying to like, join their plan, which was kind of absurd. And then we get to the very end after like giving them all of our information. And then they're like, oh, sorry, you got declined. And we were like, why? And they're like, oh, some like fraud security issue, but like, that was it. They're like, yeah, we don't actually really know why. So they're secure. Whatever they're doing for security is working a little too well, because I promise we're not people that we're normal. Anyway, so interesting.
The whole thing with SIM swapping is a huge deal right now, and I know that the providers are. So I did last September, I did a video on SIM swaps because there was a couple of high profile SIM swap. And a SIM swap is when somebody like basically goes into, like if you have Verizon, they go into Verizon. Oh, I'm Hannah, and my phone, my mom's sick, and I've got to get back, and my phone isn't working, and you can, and this malicious social engineer can go in and like trick somebody into giving out, your cell phone number to a different SIM card and basically taking over your cell phone. And so then, you use that for two-factor authentication. You can use your phone and SMS messages to take over like your Gmail account. Like there's tons of different things that can happen there. And it happened to a few high-profile people, especially like in the crypto space. I've seen it, over the years, it's happened a lot. But I made this video and it was like, 200 views. To this day, like it started popping off in like maybe February of this year. And it's just like, I should probably do another one, but it is a huge deal. It must have, some big things must have happened in order for so many people be searching that up. And
yeah, that's interesting.
so I'm sure the providers are just like holding on to that with very tight reins right now.
Yeah, that's a better perspective, because I was pretty frustrated with the company about it. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll get to know.
I'm sure that's what it is. Yeah. Where are you going to travel to? I'm sorry if that's too personal for a live stream.
It's not. We're actually, my husband and I both work remote, and so we're gonna take 6 months and just go kind of wander through South America and see where we land. So we'll be around, but just virtually. Yeah.
Amazing. Oh, that's so good. I'm so excited for you. Do it now while you can.
I know. That's what everybody has been saying. We're super stoked. Well, that is it for track 2. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Kathy. Seriously, it's such a gift to have you.
I miss you so much, Hannah.
I know. I miss you too. Really, it's such a treat.